And one. You're now tuned into the First and 10 podcast brought to you by OXP Media. I'm your host, Brandon Graham, and I'm pleased to be joined by a very special guest, of course, Athletes Unfiltered, but Ryan McNeill. Thank you very much for joining us. How are you doing? How are you doing today, man?
I'm doing fantastic. We're on the eve of American Thanksgiving, and I'm thrilled to be sitting on my couch all afternoon tomorrow watching a NFL triple header. That's my awesome. Kind of Thursday.
Yeah, that's hey, I used to be the kind of teacher kind of take the days off for the Thursday, but I think today I'm gonna go. No, tomorrow I'm gonna be going into work, but that's awesome, man. Getting to do that, it's a dream. Kind of reminds me a lot of like March Madness, staying home. You know, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be great, and we'll get right into it. I wanted to start off initially in the AFC East, and now that I know that you're a New England Patriots fan, wanted to know now. You know, first of all, the Bills. The Bills are your number one competition in that division. Do you believe that the Bills are pretenders at this point? Yes or no when it comes to what you've seen thus far?
That's a tricky one because up until last week against the Colts, I would make the argument that the Buffalo Bills were the top team in the AFC.
Right.
What scares me about the Bills is leading up to that Colts game, their run defense was phenomenal. Like they were double teamed some gap holes. They were doing a bunch of stuff with their front seven. That was just phenomenal stuff. But Jonathan Taylor ate them alive. What was it? Five touchdowns?
5 touchdowns or 200 yards.
Football points record for a single game.
Yeah.
That scares me. And I think it should scare Bills fans. All you can hope, though, is that it lights a fire under these ultra competitive guys. Right. They have an amazing game this weekend, shut down the run against whoever they're playing.
The Saints, yeah.
The Saints, which is Alvin Kamara, which is even scarier, in my opinion, than a Jonathan Taylor. So This weekend is a good litmus test for the Buffalo Bills. How do they bounce back? What does that run defense look like? And can Diggs have a big game? Can Josh Allen have a big game? What about Buffalo's running game? Because as we get colder out here, especially in the north, in Buffalo, and they're playing some games against New England, what kind of run game can Buffalo get going?
Right.
So to answer your question, I think they're contenders. There's some doubt in my mind. And if they don't have a dominant defensive performance, especially when you can stack the line against the Saints, with the second or third string quarterback in.
Yeah, Trevor Siemian.
No number one receiver in Michael Thomas. It lets your defense kind of just stuff the line, stuff the run game. If they have another stinker, then I'm sounding the alarm. But for right now, I still have them as pretenders, especially in the AFC.
Wow, there we go. So that's a bold statement. I was going to mention that the running game now with Zach Moss being a little bit injured and Devin Singletary. I do follow the Bills pretty closely. And Matt Breida stepping in, he's inactive for the most of the season, but now he's stepped in past 2 games. He's been the best back. Sean McDermott even said that he's earned the most rushes. So now he's thrust into that rushing game that was dominated by Singletary and Zach Moss, and he's actually playing a lot better. But that's the reason why I think Josh Allen and company have been struggling. The run game has been awful, god-awful these past few weeks, and it's been putting more pressure on Josh Allen to get out of the pocket, run for these first downs, and try to get the ball to a Diggs, to a Gabriel, Cole Beasley, Dawson Knox, so on and so forth. They've really struggled, and getting actually shellacked by the Colts should scare everyone in that entire conference, especially the New England Patriots. That's what I was kind of allude to very soon. But I think what I would say is that they have some big games coming up. They're playing tomorrow. I think it's the last game against the Saints on Thanksgiving. That should be really exciting. And Trevor Siemian's the backup quarterback there. I don't know what Sean Payton's doing. They're giving Taysom Hill close to $45 million now with a new restructured contract. Don't know what's going to happen there. I don't know why he's not starting. So I see the Bills kind of bouncing back and then getting back into that mode where they're kind of, probably tie the New England Patriots at 7-4. But we'll see what the Patriots do this weekend as well too. With just mentioning the Patriots, your team, are you more comfortable with this? With the Patriots, do you think it's Super Bowl or bust now? Like, how do you feel about about Mac Jones now he's played this far?
I am thrilled that we have Mac Jones for the next 5+ years, hopefully the next decade plus years.
Right.
He fits what Bill Belichick wants in an offense. And Josh McDaniels has utilized Mac Jones perfectly, in my opinion. Right. I don't think it's Super Bowl or bust, especially with a rookie quarterback.
Yeah.
I think Matthew Judon is finally clicking now defensively. The defense has been scary in a good
really
way
scary.
For the past month. So when you have 3 bell cow running backs that you can hand it off to, and you have a scary defense, that's always a nice recipe for success come December, January, and then more importantly, in playoff time. Absolutely. Now, would they need to get Super Bowl? No. Would I be content with an AFC championship game? Yeah, I think that's a great season because the wheels fell off last year. When you lose Gronk and more importantly, Tom Brady, you go in a rebuilding mode. And if you can have a 1-year rebuild where you spend a lot of money on free agency, which they did for the defensive players, when you draft and you draft your quarterback for the next 5 to 10 years, I think if you win a playoff game, I'd be content. I'm not going to be thrilled, but I'm a little greedy. I'm a little spoiled as a Patriots fan. But I'd be content with the first round opening weekend win in the playoffs because that shows that you're making progress, you're on the right track, and better things are on the horizon.
Absolutely. And Mac Jones is really good with his timing. He's always on time with his and Josh McDaniels, that's a credit to him and the coaching staff. They just done a really good job there. Julian Edelman on part of my take this other podcast said that the tough teams, and what Bill Belichick says is that tough teams can run the ball, stop the run, and cover kicks. And the Patriots are one of the best at doing that in all phases. But I have something to say because I read this quote today when I was doing a little bit of research. Matt Judon, and we'll talk about Thanksgiving dishes really soon, but Matt Judon said that he hates macaroni and cheese and he thinks it's the most overrated dish in Thanksgiving. I love mac and cheese. He said every time I try it, it's the same thing. It's never going to change. It's never going to get better, all right? I'm almost 30 now. I'm pretty set in my ways, and it's disgusting. Get it off the table. The bathrooms will be less busy. How do you feel about – are you a fan of mac and cheese, and you think Matt Judon is out of his mind?
I think he has to have some on my mom's mac and cheese. So my mom has your homemade sauce, which is huge. But then on top of that, she'll put bacon and breadcrumbs. And maybe I'm wearing that wrong, but like some kind of breadcrumb thing on top. So it has that crispiness. And then what I also like to do, a little Frank's Red Hot, free plug for Frank's Red Hot. So I got a little kick in there, a little crunch in there, got my bacon in there. So needless to say, I love my mac and cheese. Yeah. And I strongly disagree with Matthew Judon on this one hot take.
Yeah, that honestly, I've gotten hungry just from hearing that because I've had the best mac and cheese just like that this past summer. So really hungry right now, but we'll get to that later on. So with the predictions for the Thanksgiving games, I'm going to go down them really quickly. You can just tell me your take on it and exactly who you think is going to win. Bears versus Lions. Do the Bears get their first win?
At first blush, this is a boring game. But these divisional rival games in that division, they've always been competitive. And the Lions are poised for their first win. Justin Fields is out, or at least out. So I don't trust Andy Dalton. So I'm going out on a limb, and your listeners can be turning off now, and I apologize, but I'm going with the Detroit Lions for their first win of the season.
Okay, there you go. That's one. I think Jack Boyle will be starting. I don't think it's going to be Jared Goff. I think he's injured. So I'm going to go with the Bears there. They have to get a win there. If they don't, then Matt Nagy's gone. All right.
David Blau, right? Former Purdue quarterback?
No, I think it's Jack Boyle, another guy that's going to be stepping in there.
Hey, I'm hoping it's David Blau because he played well in mop-up duty last year for Matty Stafford. So
he did.
He has the experience. He's a former Purdue quarterback.
There you go.
I'm
For
hoping
New
David
York.
Blau steps in. I'm hoping you have some bad intel here, Brandon.
Yeah.
I'm my guys underneath center for Detroit.
For Detroit. Okay, wait, hope that happens. I hope they get their first win. Raiders, Cowboys. Cowboys are rolling right now. They did have a kind of a stinker last game, but Mark Cooper is out with COVID. Who do you think's going to win this game? And do you think this? Just go ahead with that. Let's just start with that.
I
Cowboys,
think
Raiders.
the Dallas Cowboys are falling back to earth. However, the Las Vegas Raiders have easily had the worst all-time drama season off the field. Ruggs, and that DUI was just
Ridiculous.
disturbing, emotionally draining, a gut punch for the team. I do love what Derek Carr did to address the media. It showed to me good leadership.
Yeah.
And then with their coach,
Gruden,
I think is a bit of a witch hunt on the NFL's behalf. They had to throw some sacrificial lamb to the media, and I think Gruden is planning on suing the NFL and some people, and I hope he wins that. But all this stuff is happening. So you lose your leader in the coach. You have two massive, serious losses to your team, your head coach and an electrifying wide receiver through very extreme situations. I think it's a nice way of putting it.
Yeah.
I want Ezekiel Elliott to pop off in this game. I think with Amari Cooper being out, and who else is out for them? Is CeeDee Lamb playing, or is he?
I think CeeDee Lamb should be playing.
Right? Didn't he have a concussion?
He did. He may be out. They're saying he's questionable. They say you can still pass the protocol.
So when you only have Gallup,
right?
When Gallup's your third receiver, I'm loving Gallup. But when he's your receiver number one, that puts a lot of pressure on Dak Prescott in the running game.
Absolutely.
That being said, Las Vegas might not win a game the rest of the season. So this is a long way of saying any other team I'd probably pick against Dallas, but because the Raiders are a mess, I'm going Dallas.
Yeah, I'm stick with you with Dallas there. I don't think Dak Prescott and that team defense is playing well, and they should bounce back after that loss last week. Pretty tough, but I think they're actually. I don't think they're pretenders. I actually think the Cowboys are good. I think this is the first time I've actually not hated the Cowboys. I used to hate their fan base, hate everything about them, but this year I guess with Hard Knocks kind of eased me into it. But that's a story for another day. Bills versus Saints. Of course, I think we just spoke about this right now, but I think we're both in agreement. You can kind of give your take. Do you think the Bills will bounce back here?
I think the Bills bounce back. I don't trust this second/third string quarterback nonsense. Right. And the Buffalo Bills, the heart of their team is their defense, in particular the run defense. I think they at least, because they can focus on Alvin Kamara, can at least contain him, which then means in a relatively easy win for the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, I'm in total agreement with you. I think that's a no question. So I'm going to ask you right now, just because we've seen it, bro, pretty much past the halfway point in the NFL season. Who your current favorite to get out of the AFC and NFC would be? I'll just go first with the AFC. I actually believe in the Bills. I actually believe the Bills can get out of the AFC. I still think they're gonna figure it out some way, somehow. That's my team out of the AFC. Do you want to tell me your team out of the AFC?
I'm someone who I will admit has a recency bias. Right. So teams that start the first month, 6 weeks, a lot of those teams have cooled down. Yeah, a lot of their weaknesses have been exposed now, and other teams have taken off. Mm-hmm. So the Bills are in the mix. My dark horse is New England Patriots because their defense is clicking so well, the running game, the offense is flowing. But my pick to come out of the AFC are the Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes is back in a groove. That defense. Who's a dude who had 3.5 sacks in the last game alone?
Is it Chris Jones?
That's it. Yes.
Chris Jones, yeah. Chris Jones playing well.
The defense is playing ferocious right now. They're locked in. The schemes are on point. They're making big plays. And now the offense is waking up, which you knew was only a matter of time. Yeah. And to quote the infamous Ric Flair, to be the man, you got to beat the man. Haven't the Chiefs gone to the AFC Championship game or won it 3 straight years?
Yeah.
There's nothing that I'm seeing right now that makes me question or doubt them as the alpha dogs in the AFC.
Okay, there we go. That's a bold statement. You brought facts there. There we go. I think this is the Bills' year, but they've cooled down so much that I'm getting I'm being very skeptical with them there. But we'll see. We'll see where we go, and we'll kind of circle this back later on. In the NFC, I can't even ask you to start off. Which team do you believe will get out of the NFC? There are a lot of really good NFC teams. Which team has stuck out to you as that front runner altogether?
The only thing that I question and that I worry about is your favorite quarterback, Aaron Rodgers. Was it a broken toe, a dislocated toe?
Just a toe injury, he says.
He showed it to the media today during his presser, and I'm like, he's going to have the guts and the cojones to play through it, and that's great. But that's a difference between him posting what were MVP numbers to now Pro Bowl, which is still a hell of a season. But that difference between MVP to Pro Bowl from Rodgers is a difference between the Packers being Super Bowl favorites and them just being a strong team. I'm going on a limb here, and this is probably going to bite me in the ass. I love Arizona.
Oh, wow.
Their defense is much improved.
Yeah.
It's at least, I believe it's top 10 in the NFL, and the offense is electric. I'm mainly a basketball guy, and in the NBA, if you have a top 10 offense and a top 10 defense, you're going to do well in the playoffs.
Right.
And so Arizona has a top 5 offense.
Top 5 offense, yeah.
And a top 10, maybe top 12 defense.
They are a top 10. I think they're 8 right now. Yeah.
So when you have those two elements, that always travels well in the playoffs, even if you're on the road in a Green Bay or somewhere. Because if you can play great defense and get points, because they can run the ball for points. Who is it? James Conner, the former Pittsburgh Steelers guy, has 12 or 15 rushing touchdowns.
I think he has 12. Yeah, he's over 10 for sure, which is nuts. And he's not. It's him. It's him and Chase Edmonds. Yeah, go ahead.
I know it's weird coming to my mouth saying the Arizona Cardinals, but they are the top seed right now in the NFC. And with those two top 5 offense, top 10 defense, I'm going Arizona. Who do you got, Brandon?
I honestly have in my notes right here said it will not be the Arizona Cardinals. I verbatim have it said the same where I said it would not be the Arizona Cardinals.
Okay, well, why do you feel that way then?
The reason I would say that is because I just feel that the Arizona Cardinals always tip off at a certain point. This is their best year. The past 2 years, they started out, I believe they were 7-2 the start of the season. Right now, of course, their the record is let me just get
9-2,
9-2 because Colt McCoy has played really well, stepping in. I think he's like one of the best modern day backups. In the modern, he's one of the best modern day backups, and he's done a really good job. But the Kyler Murray led Arizona Cardinals have always kind of tailed off. Their defense has never been this good. But for the past 2 years, they've always had really good records going until around week 14, and then they've just tailed off from there. Week 14, week 13. So that's the reason why I've had Kyler Murray on fantasy, and I've seen that he's gotten really hot to start, and then it kind of tails off in the end.
Well, his body's so slight, it can't hold up to the rigors like we'd hope it would.
Absolutely. But with that being said, I'm going to roll with the Packers. I think the Packers will – hopefully Aaron's injury does subside, and he can take some they can put some in his toe to kind of subside it for until after the off season where he can get some surgery and whatnot. But I like the Packers. The Buccaneers will be really scary. I have Packers/Buccaneers. But I'm a really big fan of the Packers, and I think this is kind of the year they hopefully get to that Super Bowl and hopefully contend. But a lot of things have to go right there. So that's my reason for why. Okay, it's not a bad pick, right?
No, like I say, I thought the Packers were the top team until this Aaron Rodgers toe issue.
Right.
And if you think they can pump him full of painkillers or his body will just manage it, I totally get the Packers. I will say, I think it's Packers or Cardinals. I think those two are the elite in the NFC, and I would be shocked if another team is playing the Super Bowl of the NFC. I think those are your two options. Maybe one team sneaks into the NFC Championship game, but Green Bay or Arizona will be representing the NFC in the Super Bowl. One of those two teams.
I hope you're right. But let's transition now from the NFL to collegiate football. Very big, of course, you're a Purdue fan, as I just learned, and it's now seeing a team out of the Power Five conferences in the Cincinnati Bearcats, led by Desmond Ritter, getting into the top 4 college football playoff rankings altogether. Have you been impressed with certain teams this year? Or is there any team that kind of sticks out to you that as though they're going to be the one in the end? Like, what is your take on this year thus far? I'll get that first.
I love that Cincinnati is one of the group of 5 teams that's making an actual push, and they deserve to be in this conversation for one of the 4 college football playoff spots. I hate Notre Dame. I hate Coach Kelly.
Me too.
So this is being said begrudgingly. I'm impressed after getting whooped earlier in the season. They have won every other game since, and they're knocking the door, whether they're the 5th or the 6th seed.
They're 5th. Yeah, they're 5th. Yeah, they're right there. Yeah, they're right there.
So they're right there. I love what Georgia's done. Maybe it's because in high school I played free safety and corner, so I love nasty, gritty defensive plays.
Yeah.
Georgia's defense is just a whole other level, and I always say the SEC is the best conference. Like I cover Michigan games, I cover Purdue games, Michigan State games. I've been on the field at those schools. I love Big Ten football, but the best conference is the SEC. So when you're having this kind of dominant performance against teams that are ranked in the top 25, that are SEC teams, and your defense is just smacking them in the mouth.
Dominant.
So I think what Georgia is doing is very impressive, but I don't think fans or the media might appreciate it as much because defense is rarely seen as being as sexy as offense and scoring touchdowns and big running plays and all that kind of stuff. But Georgia has really impressed me so far this year.
Absolutely. And there's a guy, defensive tackle of Georgia, I think his name Jordan Davis. Yeah, he's unbelievable. There's another linebacker in Georgia. Like, those guys are all NFL top, first round, second round draft picks.
These dudes are like 6'3", 6'4", 350, and more athletic than me in my prime at 5'10", 185. Like, I mean, it's respectfully, they're doing things that ballet dancers can do. That really? Kind of flexibility, that kind of explosiveness.
Yeah.
At their size, it's just like they're freaks of nature, and I love watching the ball.
Yeah, I played quarterback in high school and a little bit in university, so I'm always about the offense. But I agree with you; they should get more recognition altogether. But yeah, like with Cincinnati now, they're playing. I believe they're playing San Francisco State and some other teams where East Carolina actually, where they continue to kind of roll. Desmond Ritter, that quarterback from Cincinnati, is really good. Their running back is really good as well too. So I believe they're going to stay in that conversation altogether. I believe you're going to think they're going to stay at number 4 for the most part because they've already beaten Notre Dame, who's knocking on the door. So they might. Do you believe they'll retain their spot in the college football playoff?
They have to win their final regular season game this weekend, and they have to win their championship game.
Yeah, exactly.
They can't afford any losses. Now, I think they're going to win both those games.
Yeah.
The other interesting thing is ahead of them in the rankings and right behind them in the rankings are 2 Big Ten schools that are battling in the game this weekend. So Ohio State and Michigan.
Yeah.
And so one of those 2 will cannibalize each other this weekend. So either Michigan will drop from 6 out of the picture, which gives Cincinnati some more breathing room.
Right.
Notre Dame doesn't have a chance for a championship game, which I think should then help Cincinnati as long as they win the last 2 games.
Right.
They'd have 13 wins, no losses, as opposed to Notre Dame having 11 wins and 1 loss.
11 wins and 1 loss, exactly.
So you're right. As long as Cincinnati wins out, I think the Big Ten is going to kind of cannibalize that other threat. Because there was one point this season where I thought it'd be 2 SEC teams, which I still believe, in Georgia and Alabama. And I thought it might be, at one point, Ohio State and Iowa, or I thought it might be Michigan State and Ohio State. I thought there'd be 2 Big Ten. But I think because Michigan State has that 1 loss and they have no chance at the Big Ten championship now, I believe.
They can't. They're the same. Yeah, to Ohio State.
Goes to Ohio State. And then that tiebreaker would go to Michigan if Michigan beats Ohio. So again, the Michigan State's kind of out of that picture now. It's a long way of saying, Cincinnati, just win, baby. Little Al Davis for you. Just win. Win these next two. Win your final regular season game. Win your championship game, and you should be in.
Yeah,
unless there's some crazy politics that would infuriate me. Because logically, as we break it down, there's no logical reason. They should have 13 wins, no losses, a Notre Dame win on that resume, and be on the outside looking in.
Right. They need to win convincingly too. And I think the offense there's a guy named Alec Pierce is number 12 when he's unbelievable. The receiver. They have everything on defense is really good. They have 30 seniors on Cincinnati, so they should get it done. And they have to win convincingly as well. And you just have to win. Once again, I'm a big Ohio State guy, so I'm saying, CJ Stroud, that receiving core is ridiculous. They have top 10 receivers all around. Do you see them losing to Michigan at all this weekend in the big house?
I've covered about a dozen Michigan games on the field.
Right.
I love the big house. It is, as a sports fan and as a sports journalist, it is my favorite place in the world to be on that field.
Wow.
I want Michigan to win. Jim Harbaugh needs a win.
Yeah.
I was amazed. I almost fell off the couch last weekend. You probably know. I'm not sure if your listeners do or not. Do you know how many Big Ten losses Ryan Day has on his resume as a head coach?
I think it's 0.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I can't see any reason why, with their defense being what it is and their offense being one of the best in the nation,
right?
And Michigan's mental lapses, you can't have the mental lapses against other Big Ten schools that against Ohio State. You have to be locked in, and Michigan hasn't shown that. So I think, unfortunately, begrudgingly, I think Ohio State's going to win running away. It's going to be a blowout, I think.
Oh, but it's always different than the big house. I remember Justin Fields played there 2 years ago. Before the last year, there was a COVID.
What was it, 3 years ago? Where was that one call? The one call, the out of bounds play, or there's a play late in the last 2 minutes of fourth quarter. It totally swung the game. The last 2 or 3 years were blowouts, which were stinky. But I think 3 or 4 years ago, it was a game, and that was the game where Michigan had held on, not just come back, but held on. They would have played for a Big Ten championship and likely or the college. They have been close, but just from what I've seen this year, I'm worried it's gonna be a blowout for Ohio State.
Ohio State. There we go. Now I know it's a JC Barrett year, and I think the quarterback was, I can't remember the quarterback's name, but I remember that game in the shoe when they should have won and they lost. So that's one thing too.
And I blacked this Michigan's quarterback out of my mind because he drove me nuts. He came from Ole Miss as a transfer. Last year was his last year. He played.
Yes, Patterson.
Atrocious.
Patterson. Yes.
Yeah.
So, I remember watching it. Yeah, he was pretty bad. He got killed by DJ Haskins and those guys. I'm once again huge Ohio State guy. Huge college.
I have more faith in JJ and Kate this year than I did in that guy.
Oh my goodness, that's not bad. Yeah, he's out of here right now. But with that being said, which player do you think would be retaining or be receiving the Heisman Trophy this year? Is there any player that stuck out to you? Just to kind of end off right here, so far.
So I think based on what we've talked about today, I think we're going to have two different names. Yeah. And so I'd love to hear your two names or your person after I go through here. I think that Kenneth Walker III has been a complete beast. I know last week was a bit of a dip, but he has 1,500 rushing yards. He's averaging 6.4 yards per touch. He has 17 rushing touchdowns, 18 for the year. Yeah, I don't have it in front of me. I wish I had pulled it up, but his yards after contact is just all-time level. And I didn't have Michigan State winning more than 10 games this year.
Oh wow!
I have them in that 8, maybe 9 game range. And a big part of it is obviously Mel Tucker. And then a close second is Kenneth Walker, the third, what he's done coming over from Wake Forest. So Kenneth Walker is my leading candidate. And I know and I appreciate that Bryce Young is getting a lot of Heisman buzz.
Yeah.
Even CJ Stroud.
Yeah. My
argument against those two, I'm going with it with the quarterback we talked about briefly, Desmond Ritter. Mm-hmm. I can't name a single receiver he's slinging it to right now. Mm-hmm. And he's still posting mega numbers. I think when I can't think of their running back, I can think of Sauce Gardner and Desmond Ritter. Those are two names on that Cincinnati team. The rest are classic workhorse, just gritty football players.
Yeah.
And that being said, he's averaging 8.2 yards per pass. He has like a shade of 2,300 yards passing already this year. He's thrown for 19 touchdowns. He only has 6 picks. His quarterback rating is 152.9. It's like one of those all-time classic seasons. I lied. I read last year's numbers. This year's are even better.
Yeah.
Let's backtrack here.
That gives you even more reason.
27,000 yards passing. He's averaging 8.7 yards per pass attempt. He's thrown for 25 touchdowns. Only thrown it away 6 times. Like just a complete beast. And again, because I can't think of any of his receivers, I don't want it to be a knock on CJ Stroud because he has to make the passes. But I do feel, you played quarterback, you can relate to this. When you have reliable options, I think CJ is going to have, 3,000-yard receivers?
Yeah.
The way that spreads the defense out for a quarterback. And then you have that freshman running back
Anderson.
So playing quarterback on a national championship caliber team is never easy.
No.
However, when you have that around you, plus you have Ryan Day as your coach, those things help. Mm-hmm. So that's why I would have Kenneth Walker as my leading candidate. And my second place vote is Desmond Ritter. Because I think it's more than just the numbers. I know I just went through some numbers, but I think for Desmond Ritter to be the face of that team that's probably going to go 13-0 going into selection Sunday. I'm calling it the wrong thing.
Similar selection Sunday,
Yeah. I think Walker or Ritter, if they were to win, I'd be ecstatic. If Bryce Young or CJ Stroud were to win, okay, I can see I can see the numeric reason. I can see the logic behind it, but I'd be more excited if Kenneth Walker or Ritter won the Heisman. Who's your leading candidate for the Heisman?
Those are great picks. The only thing I'll say is that Kenneth Walker got absolutely shut down last week. And 26 yards rushing for scrimmage, that's his worst game by far in his collegiate career, but they absolutely put him in a blender. Like he just played terrible last week in the shoe against Ohio State. 26 yards rushing. Okay, and
so for context, wasn't Michigan State down like 21 points in the first quarter? Yeah. So you can't rely on your running game because you have to grip it and rip it to try and get some easy points. But then it led to more turnovers and it just made things messy. So I think by halftime they were down 40 plus points.
41.
And you know from playing quarterback, even if your star is the running back, you can't just keep handing it off because you'll never have any chance of coming back in that game. So let me load up here.
No, that's a great point. And you know what? I'll take that back. I'll say that, that's a great point. You can load it up, whatever you have there. I really like Desmond Ritter. I've been a Desmond Ritter guy. I thought he would have went first round if he went into the NFL draft last year. I'm right with you there. I've watched.
And can I say too? Do you know how many rushing attempts he got?
No, I didn't even double check that.
6. So he only had the ball. And against that Ohio State defense, he had 4.2 yards per touch.
So
he was still. It's just a matter of what are you going to do when your team's down that much and you get 6 handoffs?
That's nuts.
So
you know what? Yeah, that's more on Mel Tucker. If he doesn't get it, that's Mel Tucker's fault. Okay, and the offensive coordinator there. But I'll give you my two picks there. I know I like Desmond Ritter. He's not my number one guy. I think Desmond's done a really good job. I think he's had 30 seniors, right? The running back Dwayne Ford, Alec Pierce, one of his stand-up receivers. He has a few other speedy guys on the outside that just burn the defense, and he throws a great poster out. He does a really good job of the zone read. He's just been solid for the past 3 years. He's always been good. Right, he's always been good. So I thought he would have been out last year and went to the NFL, but he chose to come back, and deservedly so. They went up against, I believe, Georgia last year in the Sugar Bowl, I believe, and he played well, but of course they didn't get the win there. But no, I think this year is different. I think he's done everything. First time in college football history where a team not in the Power Five has been in the conversation. It's all credit to him and Luke Fickell, right? So I have Desmond Ritter there, and it's probably biased, but as an OSU guy, not really that biased, but from where he started the season against Minnesota and struggling against Minnesota to where he is now, where he just completed 17 consecutive completions in a row, threw for 432 yards, 294 yards the time before. In like 20 minutes, he threw that much, 4 touchdowns. Yes, he has the best receiving core in the nation by far, but CJ Stroud has made pretty much as freshman, as a redshirt freshman, freshman, come in and do what he's doing is unbelievable. He's making great reads, and he's putting up video game numbers right now, right? And numbers that are seen as historic.
I forgot about that Minnesota game. I remember watching that, and I thought, you know what? This kid's toast, because Ewers is still on the sideline, and they want this Ewers kid in. So I thought maybe at halftime they're going to switch up quarterbacks. Like that first game was atrocious.
Yeah, it was bad. Yeah, it was bad. And what I'll say too is that they had Ewers come into the game against Michigan State, and I don't know what's going to happen now because Ewers is a freshman right now. Right, he reclassified. He's supposed to be in high school, but he was able to come into that game, and he's a number 1 recruit. For some, I don't know what they're going to do because if CJ has to come back next year and he has to come back the year after, right? So there's going to be a lot of politics and stuff that's going to happen to Ryan.
Well, I think he has to come back next year because he has to be 3 years removed before he can classify for the NFL draft. So last year, his true freshman year, this year is his second year, and then next year is going to be his third year. Right. But I don't think yours is going to want – he already gave up a year of high school.
Right.
Like he could go transfer portal and he could pick a Florida, he could pick an SEC team and be QB1 out the gate. I think
for sure.
I think you take your licks this year knowing it's your high school year anyway, so nothing lost. But he's going to want to at least have a chance, at the very least have a chance to be QB1, to fight for it. And I don't think he has that opportunity now because CJ Stroud is a Heisman candidate. So I think yours is gone. I think
that's why I'm right with you. I think that's what's going to happen, and we'll see. But it's Ohio State. They'll continue to reload. They'll continue to be good. And Ryan is a great coach. But yeah, that's what I'm
not worried about Ohio State reloading. They'll do fine.
They'll definitely do fine. Hey, Ryan, it's been a pleasure, man. Really, really fun having you on talking collegiate NCAA football, talking NFL football. I want to do this again. Later on and see, hopefully circle the Heisman, circle what happens in the college football playoff, and hopefully have another conversation about college football and NFL down the line. But man, really appreciate having you on, man.
That sounds great. I had a blast. Thanks, Brandon.
No problem. And where can they find you on is it just Athletes Unfiltered? They'll find you on Twitter, Instagram?
On Twitter, it's at Ryan McNeill. And my podcast is Talking Season. So at Talking Season on Twitter.
Talking Season on Twitter. Make sure, guys, you follow. Of course, you follow us on SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, the first 10 podcasts under OXP. Thank you so much. Keep following.